Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a Veneration of Veterans concert presented by Coro de Capo. Coro de Capo is a mainline area adult choir that specializes in a cappella music. I am Marcia Kaur, the conductor of the group, and we are delighted that you're here with us this evening. Coro de Capo's normal venue is the Ardmore Presbyterian Church in Ardmore, Pennsylvania. But due to the pandemic, of course, tonight our concert is virtual. On the program, you will hear a nice selection of patriotic tunes which you will recognize, and also a few tunes that you will not recognize that are by contemporary composers. To round out the program, we also have a few anecdotes and tributes to veterans as recorded by some of our choir members. In order to accomplish a concert and to accommodate COVID-19 safety practices, the choir divided into smaller groups. 4 of those groups rehearsed live and recorded live, socially distanced and in masked outdoors. 4 other groups recorded their tracks at home individually, and they were combined into a satisfying whole. Because today is officially Veterans Day, we salute all veterans who are currently serving or have served for the good of all of us. We are united in our gratitude to those men and women of all armed services who have sacrificed time, talent, and often lives to protect the freedoms that we all enjoy. We begin our virtual concert tonight with the singing of the national anthem. On September 13, 1814, according to Kate Lineberry from Smithsonian Magazine, a 35-year-old American attorney named Francis Scott Key was inspired to write the text of what would eventually become our national anthem. The scene was the Battle of Baltimore, part of the ongoing War of 1812, on a night when the British were attacking the harbor. This battle was fought only a few weeks after the British burned our capital, the United States Treasury, and the President's home. For a while on that night in September, Key was actually held captive on board a British vessel because he was trying to negotiate the release of a friend being held prisoner. While on board, the 2 American men learned of the impending harbor attack. Luckily, the British did eventually allow both men to disembark safely. While on board, however, Key wrote a poetic description of the events witnessed that night, channeling his relief at seeing the American, not British flag, flying freely over Fort McHenry. Not long after, Key's brother-in-law actually set this poem called Defense of Fort McHenry to a tune, and the combined poem and music were published in the Baltimore Patriot newspaper soon afterward under the name The Star-Spangled Banner. It became a favorite patriotic song from that time forward. It was officially adopted as our national anthem by law in 1931. Tonight, our national anthem is sung by Kimberly Doler, Cindy Livornia, Amy Eisen, Alicia Tomkowicz, Adam Brower, Eric Schnitke, Peter Hebert, and Neil Hiranet, conducted by myself. It was filmed at the Delaware County Veterans Memorial Hall of Prayers in Newtown Square, Pennsylvania.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare
next selection is America, also known to school students as My Country 'Tis of Thee. According to the Library of Congress, we know for sure that the text of My Country 'Tis of Thee was written by the Reverend Samuel Francis Smith in 1831. However, the tune we associate with this song was popular across Western Europe from the 1700s onward, and went through a variety of revisions before becoming the song we recognize today. Ironically, the tune is actually the national anthem of the United Kingdom, known to the world as God Save the Queen. Americans adapted the lyrics through the years to reflect our country, and George Washington was actually welcomed for his first inauguration with the singing of this same tune to these words: "Hail thou auspicious day, for let America thy praise resound. Join to our native land, let every heart expand, for Washington's at hand, with glory crowned." Since that time, these words were adapted to suit various needs until the Reverend Samuel Francis Smith wrote the words we recognize today as traditional. The famous Massachusetts music educator Lowell Mason asked Smith to write some words to fit this tune for school children. After its debut at a children's worship service in 1831, it has been an American favorite ever since. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a Veneration of Veterans concert presented by Coro da capo. Coro da capo is a mainline area adult choir that specializes in a cappella music. I am Marcia Kaur, the conductor of the group, and we are delighted that you're here with us this evening. Coro da capo's normal venue is the Ardmore Presbyterian Church in Ardmore, Pennsylvania. But due to the pandemic, of course, tonight our concert is virtual. On the program, you will hear a nice selection of patriotic tunes which you will recognize, and also a few tunes that you will not recognize that are by contemporary composers. To round out the program, we also have a few anecdotes and tributes to veterans as recorded by some of our choir members. In order to accomplish a concert and to accommodate COVID-19 safety practices, the choir divided into smaller groups. 4 of those groups rehearsed live and recorded live, socially distanced and masked outdoors. 4 other groups recorded their tracks at home individually, and they were combined into a satisfying whole. Because today is officially Veterans Day, we salute all veterans who are currently serving or have served for the good of all of us. We are united in our gratitude to those men and women of all armed services who have sacrificed time, talent, and often lives to protect the freedoms that we all enjoy. We begin our virtual concert tonight with the singing of the national anthem. On September 13, 1814, according to Kate Lineberry from Smithsonian Magazine, a 35-year-old American attorney named Francis Scott Key was inspired to write the text of what would eventually become our national anthem. The scene was the Battle of Baltimore, part of the ongoing War of 1812, on a night when the British were attacking the harbor. This battle was fought only a few weeks after the British burned our capital, the United States Treasury, and the President's home. For a while on that night in September, Key was actually held captive on board a British vessel because he was trying to negotiate the release of a friend being held prisoner. While on board, the two American men learned of the impending harbor attack. Luckily, the British did eventually allow both men to disembark safely. While on board, however, Key wrote a poetic description of the events witnessed that night, channeling his relief at seeing the American, not British flag flying freely over Fort McHenry. Not long after, Key's brother-in-law actually set this poem called Defense of Fort McHenry to a tune, and the combined poem and music were published in the Baltimore Patriot newspaper soon afterward under the name The Star-Spangled Banner. It became a favorite patriotic song from that time forward. It was officially adopted as our national anthem by law in 1931. Tonight, our national anthem is sung by Kimberly Doler, Cindy Livornia, Amy Eisen, Alicia Tomkowicz, Adam Brower, Eric Schnitke, Peter Hebert, and Neil Hiranet, conducted by myself. It was filmed at the Delaware County Veterans Memorial Hall of Prayers in Newtown Square, Pennsylvania.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the brave and the home of the brave?
Our next selection is America, also known to school students as My Country 'Tis of Thee. According to the Library of Congress, we know for sure that the text of My Country 'Tis of Thee was written by the Reverend Samuel Francis Smith in 1831. However, the tune we associate with this song was popular across Western Europe from the 1700s onward, and went through a variety of revisions before becoming the song we recognize today. Ironically, the tune is actually the national anthem of the United Kingdom, known to the world as God Save the Queen. Americans adapted the lyrics through the years to reflect our country, and George Washington was actually welcomed for his first inauguration with the singing of this same tune to these words: Hail thou auspicious day, for let America thy praise resound. Join to our native land, let every heart expand, for Washington's at hand, with glory crowned. Since that time, these words were adapted to suit various needs until the Reverend Samuel Francis Smith wrote the words we recognize today as traditional. The famous Massachusetts music educator Lowell Mason asked Smith to write some words to fit this tune for school children. After its debut at a children's worship service in 1831, it has been an American favorite ever since. Singing this old standard with a final verse variation arranged by myself are 5 Coro da capo singers: Juliana Contrapedraza, Rebecca Pennock, Adam Brower, Peter Hebert, and Nate Pennock, all at the Delaware County Veterans Memorial House of Prayers.
Hello, my name is Seth Gardner. My father, Roy A. Gardner, was from Tunkhannock, Pennsylvania in Wyoming County. During high school, he was considered a very fine pianist and pipe organist. Looking for more financial security than a career as a musician could provide during the Depression-era years, he attended the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. While he was there, he played with bands and as the organist in Philadelphia churches to pay for college. He graduated in 1943 with a degree in accounting, married, and was drafted into the World War II. Apparently, the Army had enough accountants, so with famous Army wisdom, they assigned him to the Advanced Radio Corps, whose job was to set up radio communications as troops advanced through Europe. He was not blessed with a lot of natural mechanical ability, so one of his tasks was to run the wires from the front lines back to the main radio equipment in the command center in the rear. I remember him telling me that the first time he saw a jet plane was when he was setting up with an artillery battalion. It was a German Messerschmitt 262 fighter and was going so fast that they could not get it in their sights to shoot at it. His radio wire running job made him one of the first people involved in the Battle of the Bulge. My father is in the far right in this picture with his platoon. The man in white, leaning on the ground with his dog, is a German prisoner of war that they adopted and took care of after the war. When possible, my father would find a church to play the organ. An official Army photographer took his picture doing so, and his family lore is that this cover of Liberty magazine from April 15, 1944 is of my father. When his outfit moved into new towns, he would go into the churches, which were often bombed, and play the organ if it was still playable. One of the organs he was able to play was one of the Bach church organs in Germany. The few times he spoke about it, he was always very reverent and was still in awe of having the opportunity to play a Bach organ. After the war, my father returned to the University of Pennsylvania and obtained a degree in law. He moved back to Tunkhannock area and had a long career as a lawyer, district attorney of Wyoming County, and then as president judge of the Court of Common Pleas in the 44th Judicial District for Wyoming and Sullivan counties. He taught law at the college level and was a lecturing member of the Judicial College of Pennsylvania and the United States. He served as a visiting senior judge throughout Pennsylvania after officially retiring. He continued to play the piano and the organ for churches, including playing for my wedding to Mary, and even directed our local church choir. He died in 1996.
Find the Cost of Freedom was written by Stephen Stills of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young fame. The original included an acoustic guitar introduction and was recorded in 1970. Although the music was released during the time of great losses from the Vietnam War, the mention of the blue and the gray are references to the uniforms of the Civil War. Stephen Stills, himself a veteran, wrote the piece after being emotionally moved when visiting a Civil War battlefield. Regardless of the sentiments regarding any war, we acknowledge the great loss of young lives in such pursuits and the sacrifices made by men and women of our armed services through the ages. Singing this heartfelt tune are Adam Brower, Eric Schnittke, Michael Friesen, Ron Holgado, Matthew Watman, Neil Hironet, Peter Hebert, and Nate Pennock. The next selection, A Beautiful Land, was written by Benjamin David Knodler. This inspirational text was written by 18th century minister Jonathan Hall and has been set to many different tunes. Knudler coupled this hopeful text to a beautifully haunting original folk-style melody. Singing this lovely pastoral piece in front of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Philadelphia are Rachel Lipson, Allison Watman, Ronald Holgado, and Matthew Watman, all of whom are featured in short solos.
A beautiful land of joy I see, a land of rest from sorrow free, the home of the Spirit bright and fair, and loving hearts are beating there. Will you go? Will you go? Go to that beautiful land with me. Will you go? Will you go? Go to that beautiful land with me.
In vision I see the shining shore, the flowers that bloom forevermore, the river of life, the crystal sea, the wonderful fruit of life's fair tree. Will you go? Will you go? Go to that beautiful land with me. Will you go? Will you go? Go to that beautiful land with me. The heavenly throng arrayed in white, in rapture range the blaze of light, in one harmonious choir they raise to nature's God a song of praise. Will you go? Will you go? Go to that beautiful land with me. Will you go? Will you go? Go to that beautiful land with me. Go to that beautiful land with me.
This is Joyce Pritchard, Coro da capo soprano, with a photograph of my grandfather, Raymond A. Shaw Sr., who served in the Army during World War I at age 22. He was personnel corporal in the Headquarters Company 54th Pioneer Infantry, 3rd Battalion from Philadelphia. He wrote a letter that appeared in the American military newspaper, The Stars and Stripes, that was published in France during the war. Here are a few excerpts from it. We were on the ocean just 2 weeks, and Thursday morning, September 12, 1918, we sighted land. Running up a bay lined on either side by great rocks, we finally docked at Brest, France. Here we marched after getting off ship, through Brest and out into the country to a rest camp. We got into camp at about 6:30 in the evening. It was already dark, and we had to pitch pup tents and sleep in the mud. We remained in this place, rest camp is the big joke, as the fellows worked about 12 hours a day, for a few days. Later, we were again placed 40 men in one car and taken north. We did not know where we were going, but toward evening we began to hear a dull rumbling. At first I didn't know what it meant, but it soon dawned upon us that our train was approaching the Western Front. We rode all night, and in the morning we were again dumped off our train at a place called Fleury. In the afternoon I received my first gas mask instructions. While several of us were gathered there, someone looked up and pointed out some tiny clouds bursting far above us. No one knew what it meant until it was explained that a German plane was overhead and was being shelled by our anti-aircraft guns. This was my first sight of a German plane, but it was not the last by a long shot. They came over so often that I could tell the purr of their motors when they were miles away. They sound entirely different from any other motor. On Saturday, October 12, 1918, we packed up and hiked back to Aubervilliers, which is about 15 miles northwest of Verden. Here, 5 of us lived together in a little shanty by the side of the stable. On Friday morning, November 1st, I was awakened by a great rumbling and trembling of our little house, and I knew that another drive had started in the Argonne. At about 3 a.m., I got up, went outside, and saw the whole sky was aflame with a great light, and the noise of the barrage was terrible. I learned the following morning that it was the greatest and most deadly barrage ever put over during the war. The Germans that were left flew so fast that our men had to chase them in auto trucks. This was the beginning of the end, for once more, Germany's best men were beaten and were licked for the last time. And now I am sitting in a little room in an old hotel, which several weeks ago was occupied by the Germans. It is situated in the town of Dashiamusa along the river. There was not much more to tell, but I'm glad that the censor's lid is lifted so that I can tell you where I am. Our entrance into the zone of action was a great surprise to me, as we were going into training. But at a moment's notice, orders were changed with the result that I have seen a lot more than I ever would have seen in a training camp. Our men deserve a lot of praise too, as they worked right into the Argonne on roads which had to be kept open in order to make the big drive a success, and many a day they worked under shell fire for 8 hours and longer.
The text for the next selection, Even When God is Silent, was found scrawled on a basement wall in Cologne, Germany after World War II ended. Composer Michael Horvat was commissioned by a rabbi from Houston to set the text as a commemoration of the 50th anniversary of Kristallnacht, a night when Nazis destroyed Jewish businesses, cruelly rounded up Jews, and shuttled them off to concentration camps. Many American and Allied servicemen who eventually freed the concentration camp survivors remembered the horrors they witnessed at the camps. When they returned home to the United States, they recalled the suffering of the persecuted to their families and friends. This text reflects the positive spirit and unwavering faith unable to be quelled by the Nazis. The text reads, I believe in the sun, even when it is not shining. I believe in love, even when feeling it not. I believe in God, even when God is silent. Offering this heart-wrenching piece are Julie Cohen, Amy Eisen, Rhonda Rowland, Shirley Cohen, Mara Matthias, Adam Brower, Bob Rowland, Scott Higgs, Ed Myers, and Rachel Lipson.
I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe the
I would like to pay tribute to my father, Dr. Leonard Rabin. My father was a newly minted optometrist when he was drafted into World War II, and he was sent to basic training in Texas. For some reason, something that he said or did one day got on the nerves of his commanding officer, and so the commanding officer said, "Okay, you are on the next train out of here." So my father showed up at the train station and he saw two trains. And he said to himself, "Okay, God, if you spare me and keep me safe, I will devote the rest of my life to community service." So one of the trains was on the way to a base where they were shipping soldiers out to the war front, and the other train was on its way to Miami Beach, Florida. And fortunately, my dad was put on the train to Miami. So he spent the rest of his war years doing eye exams on newly enlisted soldiers. Interestingly, one of the soldiers whose eyes he examined was Robert Preston, who starred in the movie version of The Music Man. So he spent the rest of the war in Miami, and then when it was time to come home, he couldn't exactly go home to the home that he knew because he had been living in West Philadelphia, but his parents relocated to Coatesville, Pennsylvania. So he went back to their house in Coatesville and eventually opened up an optometry practice in Coatesville, got married, bought a house, and lived the rest of his life there. And sure enough, he did devote his life to community service. He volunteered at the Coatesville Veterans Hospital. He used to run bingo games for the residents there. He established a free eye clinic at the Coatesville Blind Association so that low-income families who couldn't afford to pay for an eye exam could go there and have their eyes examined for free and receive free glasses. He was also a member of the Optimist Club, and he ran the oratorical speech contest. So every year, he would have a group of young people that he would coach on speech writing and public speaking, and he did other service projects with them as well. He also volunteered at the local intermediate unit as a Santa's helper, so come holiday time when Santa made his rounds to give out candy, my father would help. He was also active in the local synagogue community and did all kinds of other service work around Coatesville. After he passed away and I cleaned out his personal belongings, I was really surprised to find all kinds of plaques and citations. He had been inducted into the Coatesville City Hall of Fame. Actually, that I did know about. But he was recognized for all of his hard work. But the thing is, he never ever bragged about it. He just felt this is his duty and this was the promise that he made.
Eternal Father, God to Save is the official hymn of the U.S. Navy. According to Naval History and Heritage Command, the Navy hymn tune and text were written by two 19th century British clergymen. The original words, Eternal Father, God to Save, were written by the Reverend William Whiting, who lived near the coast and who became inspired after surviving a near-fatal shipwreck in the Mediterranean. The tune, also known as Melita, which is the ancient name for the Mediterranean island of Malta, was written by the Reverend John Bacchus Dykes. Dykes was the composer of other famous hymns, including Nearer My God to Thee, which you may have heard on the movie Titanic, as well as Lead Kindly Light and Holy, Holy, Holy. Despite the fact that the hymn was originally used by the British Royal Navy, the United States Navy has adopted it as its own, and the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis concludes its chapel services each week with the singing of the first verse of this hymn. The Navy hymn is often heard at many state and military functions. Its majestic pace and fervent message speak to the patriotism of the naval forces and the dangers they face. Our singers are Julie Cohen, Stephanie Livornia, Rhonda Rowland, Shirley Cohen, Mara Matias, Michael Friesen, Bob Rowland, Scott Higgs, and Doug Norton.
Hello, this is Alicia Tomkowicz, Coro capo alto and co-president. My Nana had 3 older brothers, 3 of whom served in the Army. Her oldest brother, Rico, was in the 82nd Airborne and became a prisoner of war during the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. Her 2 other brothers, Johnny and Nicky, served in the years immediately following the Second World War. I was lucky enough to be handed down some of my Uncle Nicky's letters that he sent home during his time in Paris. I unfortunately never got to know him, but I love to read the words he wrote home to my grandmother when she was just a little girl. So I wanted to share an excerpt. On September 7th, 1946, he wrote home, "Dear Mom, I'm almost sure that I'll be going in for a staff sergeant before the end of September. Right now I'm the highest non-com in the company, so you see I've got it made over here. I'm supposed to come to America in November because a new order came down and they're sending anyone with 15 months to America. How is Johnny making out? I haven't heard a darn thing about him. Tell that lazy son of a gun to write me a letter or else I'll re-enlist. And wait till he gets in the Army. I'll have him wishing he was in the Navy. Dear Jojo, how are you? I hope you liked that bracelet I sent you. And by the way, how is your report card? It better be good. Dear Louise, how is my little girl? I hope you are still learning how to jitterbug. When I come home, I want to see just how good you are. Well, Louise, be a good girl, and I'll bring you something nice when I come home. So long, Junior."
Amazing Grace is a much beloved inspirational song often heard at funerals and other respectful occasions, but it's also commonly heard around campfires and spiritual gatherings of all types. John Newton, an English slave trader turned abolitionist, published the text in 1772, and in the next century it was linked with William Walker's tune entitled New Britain. Since that time, this text and tune duo have made a beautiful pairing and have become a folk standard. Its emotional message and haunting melody warm the coolest of hearts. Featured tonight on this arrangement for women's voices by myself are Kimberly Doler, soloist, along with Amanda Quillen Boston, Sarah Maxwell, Juliana Concha Pedraza, Rachel Lipson, Mara Matias, Allison Watman, Rebecca Pennock, and Alyssa Tino.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I had already come to 'tis grace that brought me safely here, and grace will lead me home, lead me home.
The National Hymn is a tune written by George W. Warren in 1892 and set to a text by Daniel C. Roberts called God of Our Fathers. That text was written in 1876 in celebration of the 100th anniversary signing of the Declaration of Independence. This hymn combination has been heard at state functions ever since and is another favorite of military bands and choirs. Singing for us tonight at the Delaware County site are Amanda Quillen Boston, Sarah Maxwell, Susan Best, Lynn Fitzgerald, Katie Frigel Norton, Eric Schnitke, Doug Kurtz, and Doug Norton.
God of our
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to our Veneration for Veterans concert. I'm Kimberly Doler.
And I'm Alicia Tomkowicz.
And we are the co-presidents of Coro Capo. We are so grateful that you could join us this evening for our first virtual concert.
The COVID-19 pandemic impacted our choir in the middle of our spring season last year. For the safety and well-being of our members, we postponed that concert in hopes the wait would not be too long. As the situation evolved, we evolved as well and launched a virtual season for fall 2020 after discovering an overwhelming interest from our singers.
All virtual singers involved in this concert learned their music through independent study with the assistance of custom instructional files created by our conductor, Marcia Core. Singers were then entrusted to record and submit their voice parts individually so that they could be edited together. Additionally, some of our members who desired to sing in person did so by working together and performing in a safe and health-conscious manner. We are pleased to report all audio and video editing for this concert was done in-house by Coro Capo members.
If you have been moved by anything you've heard this evening, please visit our website to stay up to date on future events. Coro Capo exists because of the dedication of our members and support from viewers like you. We continue to operate due to the gracious donations from our past concerts audiences and our musical network. In lieu of our typical at-will donations, we invite you to visit our website's benefactor page if you'd like to make a donation. All proceeds continue to go directly to Coro Capo's general operations.
Finally, we want to thank everyone who made this concert possible. This is our first virtual season, and along the way, we have navigated through the unknown with the help from our immediate musical community. This includes our nonprofit confidants, Coro Capo members at large, our fearless conductor, Marcia Core, and our very hardworking singers. Each has played a critical role in making this season a success. We are so grateful for your efforts, and we hope you feel as much pride as we do.
Please join us for our final piece, America the Beautiful, our combined number performed by all virtual choir members.
We conclude our virtual concert tonight with America the Beautiful. According to the military organization of the Purple Heart, an English teacher from Massachusetts named Catherine Lee Bates was so inspired during her 1893 trip to Pikes Peak that she wrote the text to this now well-known patriotic song. The site states that when Bates reached the top of the mountain, she cried, "I was very tired, but when I saw the view, I felt great joy. All the wonder of America seemed displayed there with the sea-like expanse." Since then, her poem has undergone several revisions and has been set to several different tunes. The one most closely associated with it today is Samuel Ward's melody, Materna. It's interesting to note that though Bates held the copyright to America the Beautiful, she never sought royalties of any kind from its publication or performance. All 31 of our participating members will sing the first and final verses of this beloved patriotic song.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy shining sea. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.